Happy video day, guys. Christina, Brooke here. We have a surprise video tonight. So Charlotte Tilbury's brand new palette has just arrived on my doorstep. So I do have right here the Charlotte Tilbury Smokey Eyes Are Forever brand new release. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be trying it on for the first time. I'll be giving you guys all my thoughts. I also will be comparing it to Starry Eyes to Hypnotize because, well, if you saw my Make Up Your Mind, then you might know that I thought they had a very similar aesthetic. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be running it all down for you guys to let you guys know whether I think it's something that maybe you should add to your wish list or maybe you should skip it. But anyways, if you are new and you've never seen me before, I would love it if you would maybe think of hitting subscribe. I love to talk about makeup. I also sprinkle in some fashion. So if you like those two things, you're going to like it around here. So maybe join the family. So anyways, let's go ahead, let's get into it right now. So this is Charlotte's brand new holiday release. So if you guys were able to get this early like myself, she did do a early release that she always does. It's a 48-hour, I believe it is, release so that you guys can pick up the palette before everybody else if you want to. And I went ahead and did that so I can show it to you guys today. So the palette actually is retailing for $75 US. It actually will be available on the Charlotte Tilbury website on September 23rd. So we've got a little bit of time before it actually does launch on her website for everybody. So there's 12 shades inside of this eyeshadow palette, and she does separate it into creating 4 different looks basically. So there is the love eyes, the power eyes, the happy eyes, and the confident eyes. So she always arranges her palettes this way if you're new to Charlotte in order for you to be able to stick within the different sections and you can create certain eye looks based off of those color combinations. Something a little bit more smoky if you go this way, something a little bit more bright if you go this way, so forth and so forth. So she's saying that there's 6 different formulas in here. The ones that I can recognize right away is there's a matte formula. There's definitely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mattes in here. There's also a metallic that's less intensified, so it's more of like a shimmer in here. Then there is the one that's more like a top coat in here that has pigment to it, but it has a lot of like glitter inside of it. Then there's actually foils in here. Like if you guys can see that swatch, I'm not used to seeing like this much intensity inside of Charlotte's palettes, but this is like a very intense metallic for what I'm used to seeing from Charlotte. So I definitely see 5 formulas in here. I'm not sure if maybe what she means by the other one is like this one actually looks like it shifts a little bit. So this one here is probably like a metallic with maybe like a little bit of shifting glitter. So I'm assuming those are the 6 different formulas. Definitely when you feel this palette, you can tell that there is different formulas in here. And actually when I was playing with it, I noticed that there was formulas in here I'm not used to seeing as much in Charlotte's palettes. So I did swatch this out for you guys in the daylight so you guys can see all the colors that come inside of the palette. There's a bunch of different colors. So you got your light shades, you've got some beautiful, very airy metallics in here. Then you've also got your deeper, super foiled metallics in here, and also the nice deepening shades, which I'm actually happy that she included in this palette because it is a little different to see this more smoky side to Charlotte's palette. That's everything that she says about this palette, but I do have a lot of thoughts on this palette. So I will tell you guys that I did do my eye look today, and it was very easy to create this eye look. I feel like the palette itself is very consistent from what I am used to from Charlotte Tilbury, and if anything, I will say there may be even a slight improvement on some of these formulas that I did see in the Starry Eyes to Hypnotize, that I actually did see introduced in Starry Eyes to Hypnotize that were very pretty, but I feel like they were perfected in this palette. It's very easy to use, and I feel like the shades in here are very glidey. They're very beautiful and they blend really, really nicely onto the lid. So what I want to do right now is I want to zoom you guys in and show you guys how I created this eye look, and then I will tell you guys my final verdict as well as show you guys some comparisons, because if you guys do have this palette, I don't know, it may be a big question mark to whether you want to purchase this one or not. All right, so we are zoomed in. Let's start playing with this. I will tell you guys, I already swatched this palette and there was something pretty exciting about the formula. It felt very creamy. So let's go ahead and let's do something with the eyes. What I want to do is I kind of want to do something with the greens just because I kind of feel like playing with the greens, but I also feel like playing with this dark brown because I'm not used to seeing this type of color from Charlotte. So let's start off first with this. We'll start with this color right here. Let's start with this beautiful, almost like khaki brown. It looks like it has a little green in it, which is getting me pretty excited. So let's put that in the crease. It's a transitional shade. Oh, and that's actually a lot more rich than I thought it would be. So I'm going to be using some rougher brushes today. This is a rougher 15, so you guys know. I like this shade. This is actually kind of like a rich khaki mossy shade, and it's really, really pretty, and it's applying. That looks pretty nice. So I'm going to go ahead and clean that brush off just a little bit. And what I want to do is, all right, where do I want to take this look? I think I want to get the deep brown. And I want to see if I can do a nice smoky lid with this. Look how much, these are actually a lot softer than I believe Charlotte has done in the past. There actually is a pretty good amount of kickback coming off of these, which is not a bad thing. It's just they feel like they're a little bit more pigmented than I'm used to from Charlotte. Like that was, look how much came off. So that's pretty interesting. I'm going to go ahead and place this just on the outer V and kind of just draw my eye upward. And then after I do the smoky part, I will blend it out with the bigger brush. Actually, you know what? A brush came in here. Why don't we play with this little brush that came in here? I don't know if everybody gets this brush, but a brush did come inside of my order. So I'm just going to go ahead and see if I like this. And I don't. So we're going to go back to the rougher brush, and I'm just going to go ahead and use that. I think like sometimes those small brushes, to me, it's very hard to grip, so I typically don't like to use them because I have a hard time gripping them. So this is actually a pretty nice brown. Looks like it's blending decent. That blended pretty nice. Okay, so now let's grab this green right here. I'm dying to see what this looks like because I can't tell. Yeah, it is a little bit more of like a real green. That's really pretty. Look at that. So I'm just going to apply that to the center, and then I kind of want to get this darker green right here and kind of just like tap it in between these two to kind of mix it in. That's pretty. Now the formula on these greens seem a little bit more silky than I believe that Charlotte's usually is. Like almost like they remind me a little bit more Natasha-y. Actually gonna compare this to last year's palette, to the year before last year's palette, not last year. And I'll kind of touch the different formulas a little bit, but it feels a little bit silky. So now what I want to do is grab into one of these. So this is kind of like a sheer topper. When I swatched it, I want to see what it does, if it does. Oh, wow. Okay, so it actually does have pretty good amount of pigment. When I put it on the swatch, I thought that I wasn't going to get anything out of that. That gave me a pretty good amount of product. You know, it's still a little bit like a sheer topper, but it actually does have some pigment to it. Ooh, okay, so I'm liking that. So let's just blend this together. I'm just gonna grab into this color one more time, blend it up, and then I'm gonna bring a little bit of it on the lower lash line. And then I think I'm gonna play with this like reddish tone right here. I wanna play with some of the reds. So far so good. I'm interested. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab this like more reddish brown color and kind of just outline the outer edge with it. This one's a little bit more vibrant in color, a little bit more like a brick red. Okay, so I just want to play a little bit with this black. Even though I'm kind of like done with this eye, I want to get a little bit of the black and just kind of put it a little bit here in the outer V, because it almost swatches like kind of like what the Xenon swatch like it was very, very light. I feel like this black, it is actually coming out though. It's coming out on the lid a lot more than when you swatch it. All right, so that was interesting. So it does seem like the black is actually coming off pretty well. I was a little concerned because in the swatch it was actually kind of terrible, but it actually is coming out pretty nice on the lid. I was a little bit wondering if it was not going to transfer that well, but it looks like it did a pretty decent job. All right, so this is what we came up with. I'm gonna go ahead and clean it up. I'm gonna put on my mascara, my liner, all of that stuff and do this eye. And while I'm doing that, let's get into some of my thoughts right now. All right, so you guys saw how easy it was to create this eye look, and I have to say I really like this palette. I want to play with this black a little bit more because I was swatching it up against the black from the Starry Eyes to Hypnotize, and this one right here is the Starry Eyes to Hypnotize. If you guys can see that black swatch, it was so beautifully pigmented. And then when I swatch this one, you guys can tell I feel like there's a difference in the black quality. Like the black in the Starry Eyes to Hypnotize is a little bit richer than the black that she introduced into this palette. Not to say that it's bad, because I have told you guys before, when it comes to blacks, it all depends on how it performs on the lid, because even if something is extremely pigmented, that doesn't mean it's gonna blend well, and that also doesn't mean that it's gonna make your looks any better. If anything, it could destroy your looks. So I'm pretty pleased with the outcome of this palette. I like the way the look came out, and I feel like there is a bunch of really interesting formulas in here. Is there like that super unique formula that I was like, oh my goodness, this is so cool? No, there was not that like drop, like, oh my goodness, like kind of like Patrick Ta's glitters in his palette that were just so uniquely beautiful, and his creams. This one doesn't have like that awe moment when it comes to formula. But there is some foils in here that I'm actually pretty shocked that they're Charlotte foils. Like, I feel like they were more glidey. They felt like a little bit more intense. Like, look at my eye look. I mean, I think that this is pretty intense, right? So there is a difference in here, and I do think that the formulation is actually pretty good. Like, I really like it, but I was waiting for something very, very cool that was gonna make me say, wow. Only because when it comes to comparisons, guys, I will say Starry Eyes to Hypnotize is not very different. So I'm going to show you guys both of these two together so you guys can see them next to each other. So this is the holiday release from, I believe it was 2 years ago. I think this was 2019's holiday palette, I believe, and then this is this year's. So if you guys can see, there is a quite similar outlook. Like they're definitely not twins, but they're kind of sisters, you know? Like, it's not even like they're friends or cousins. Like, these are kind of sisters. Like, I feel like when you look at the swatches next to each other, which I will show you guys in daylight, so the top is all the new palette, and then the bottom you'll see my closest comparisons in swatches to the old palette. So I swatched every color on my arm so you guys can see everything put together. And they're not identical palettes, but I do think you're gonna create very similar looks with the two. Like, just looking at them, like, they're not identical, but oh, like when it comes to colors, like sometimes when people say, oh, it's a dupe or it's not a dupe, you know, even if it's not a dupe 100%, if the colors are kind of close, they might look almost identical on the lids. And looking at these palettes, I really feel like they're really similar. And in my opinion, I think you can create very similar looks with both of these. And you may want to second guess yourself if you were looking at this and you already have the Starry Eyes to Hypnotize and you love it, okay? Now, if you didn't love the formula of Starry Eyes to Hypnotize, this is an improved formula. This is the sister, but like this is the better version, you know? I actually will say, I personally feel like I might actually like the new palette a little bit more than Starry Eyes to Hypnotize, and I loved Starry Eyes to Hypnotize. And I will tell you the reason. There was some interesting formulas in this palette, like this one right here, but now it's very hard for me to get it off. Like, it still works, but now after swatching this palette and seeing how easily this one just glided onto my fingers, and it has like a very similar like aesthetic, was so much easier to get on my finger in this palette than it was in this 2019 palette. So I feel like it's a better version of it. But I do not think that they're super different. So that's why I was really hoping that this one right here had like that it factor, like that really cool thing that I was like, okay, you know? I was also hoping that some of these greens were like super different, and they are different, but they're not super different. They're not super different. So I like this palette. I think it's a beautiful palette. I'm happy to have it in my collection. I feel like if I had both of these, I would like this one more than I like this one. But I also feel like since I have both of these, I'm going to have to declutter one of these because they are going to give me very similar looks. So I guess my mother is going to be getting a nice little present from me from Charlotte Tilbury. If you have the older one and you really love it and you don't feel like buying a brand new palette that looks almost the same, then I would say skip on this one. But on the other side, if you never got this holiday palette and you never got Starry Eyes to Hypnotize and you always wanted it, this is a very similar version of it, like super similar. It's not identical, but it's definitely super, super close. So that is my thoughts as of right now. I'm going to be playing with this palette more, doing some more eye looks. I think it's a very pretty palette. I really liked Starry Eyes to Hypnotize, so it just makes sense that I really like this one too. I like the color story, and I actually like the formulas a little bit better in this palette than the original one. So this one is it's pretty good. It's a good palette, definitely good. Just, I don't know if it's worth it for everybody. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and I will be doing some more eye looks. Let me know what you guys want to see from me with this palette down below, and I'll try to incorporate some more of those. But thanks for watching. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.